Welcome back to the things we know and what the fuck? WTS, TF, TF. Oh my God. Yes, both meanings apply. We are calling this what the fuck, but also what to feel. Because
Mm.
lately, that has become an impossible question to answer. Good Lord, we've been talking about this for probably a year at this point, if not since 2015, if we'd had the pod this long. There's just so much coming at us all the time. And so that emotional bandwidth that it takes just to sort of like stay awake, stay aware of what's going on. It's just like it's a full-time job. And I mean, one day we're enraged, one day we're exhausted, next day we're somewhere in between. And it's just to have to hold all of this and live a normal life, picking up groceries, taking our kids to school, pretend to function. Like it's just a lot.
Yeah, I don't know if I said this to you yesterday over my many texts with people, but I think I said this to our friend Elijah. I can't remember, but I feel like I took the red pill and the blue pill because it's like I wake up more and more and more to things I can't unknow. And then yet
Right.
there's like still the things you got to do. It's so
Yeah.
weird. It's so
Yeah.
weird. So it's like, yeah, it's the new baseline. I'm running on emotional, and just like right now, Lisa and I kind of woke up today going, we have to do this. And this is going to actually drop next week because we're looking at a year, right? Since last
Yeah.
election day. But like, I'm on emotional fumes and caffeine. I've got the hard stuff inside the side of my front door, right? Like that we
Yeah.
all have. Everybody has their stuff. Like we've been in a seizure cluster with Griffin. I've got an elderly dog. Like there's a lot of stuff I'm managing here that I won't even go into. So I've got all that. And if you pay attention to anything, you're also like on the other side of my door, life's even harder. Maybe not
Hmm.
for me, but like I'm feeling it
Sure.
for humanity.
Yeah.
So it's like just how do you make it through another week of headlines? And I don't know anyone who isn't at least a little bit afraid. I really don't know anyone. I know people who are on different sides of this than me, and they're afraid too. And I think,
Sure.
people are coming to like a lot of realizations just as humans right now. We keep telling ourselves we'll find equilibrium again,
Hmm.
but the world won't stop long enough to just, it's like, how do we catch our breath? So under it all, I think we're carrying the quiet question, like, how do I keep my heart open without breaking it?
Yeah. I agree. I've been saying this all calendar year, but really all summer. I'm going to take that back. I've been saying this all summer. Because I feel like the summer is really where shit started hitting the fan.
Summer we turn crazy. Just kidding.
Yeah,
Sorry.
out on that idea of outside our door, right? Like, as everyone well knows, I live in LA. So for me, the year started off by January 7th. My city was literally on fire, not pretend on fire like the Trump administration wants to pretend like we are. Um, but even that, like I did overcome that, right? Like I was like, okay, we got this. LA strong, right? And then once ICE showed up in LA and then everywhere else it's gone, and for me culminating in Chicago, for you culminating in Portland, like I've been saying this from to everybody, like everybody's going through shit, and if all we had to deal with what was happening inside our four walls, that would be enough. That would be hard enough. That would already really pull on the emotional bandwidth. But then to also see what else is going on outside, and sure, don't pay attention to the news. Don't look at social media. Okay, awesome. But you and I are not built that way. We just aren't. So again, I don't know every day what to feel. And I guess I probably run the gamut on any given day through all of them: rage, sadness, disbelief, all together mixed up in a little cocktail shaker, and then the bigger question becomes, how do we stay human when it is so tempting to go numb, or to put our head in the sand, or to go la 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 la, right? Numbness masquerades as peace,
Mm,
but it's really just burnout. And I know you are feeling this too. I am burnt to a crisp right
yeah.
now.
I am too. And for multiple reasons, again, from
Exactly.
both
Yeah.
sides of my door.
Me too.
And I have people say to me, like, I just connected with a mutual friend of ours who I haven't talked to for like 2 years. And she assumes I'm just so busy. And I'm like, I'm actually not always busy. Sometimes I'm just numb and I'm like,
Mm,
I'm doing what I can to just equalize between things.
yeah.
And that's, we talked about news and social media, and we just before we hit record, I was like, I'm going to try going off social media for a month just to see if I can, have more time and space to feel what I'm feeling and
Mm,
not numb out that way. Right. Like I
mm.
can numb out other ways, but we'll see. I have a lot. We could do a whole episode about that after, and I'll tell you how it goes. Because every time I stay away from things just for like a mental break, I come back and I'm like, would it be better to eat shit and nibbles? I don't know. But anyway, if you're still feeling something, whether it's anger or grief or even confusion, I think it means your empathy is still alive. It means you haven't given up on the idea that what happens in the world still matters to you. And it's okay if you need to numb out from it. I mean, that's what I tell myself all the time anyway.
No, I think, yeah, I think you have to. And for me, numbing out looks like watching Vanderpump Rules in the Valley. It's watching reality TV. Um, and although even that is a little bit like it's a different ball of wax because all those people are mad and yelling at each other in a shitstorm as well. But yeah, I mean, this is exhausting. We have been riding this roller coaster since at least 2015, and where I thought I would say we've been going up the roller coaster since 2015. Ever since he came down the golden escalator, we've been going up this roller coaster, and we keep thinking, oh, we're riding it, but actually this entire time up until, like, let's say June of 2025, we've been going up, 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 and now we just have taken that dip, that straight drop down.
Yeah.
You think you're climbing out of the chaos, and then the next loop hits. Um, for me, it absolutely is the political fatigue. I Politics is just something I've always paid attention to for as long as I can remember. I used to joke that election day was like my Super Bowl. I loved it. And I still love it, but it's exhausting. Um,
Yeah.
and now I'm at a point where you and I were talking about this before we went live. Like, I think the thing that most is just bone exhausting is it doesn't matter how much I care. I just don't know. I think we're so fucked.
I mean, also, not that we have, I mean, most people who are listening to us are probably in line with how we feel or think, or we've scared them off, which is fine. But I will say it's designed for
Totally.
everybody on all signs to be exhausted because
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense to be like, okay, your team won. Why are you still so angry? But it's
Yeah.
because such divisive, blaming, just, manipulative, divisive language is constantly used. So everyone on all sides is just feeling wronged. It's so strange. I mean, it's bizarre to think about, right? To the point where the other day I finally was like, okay, if both sides are so convinced the other one is brainwashed, maybe the question is what are facts, which is an earlier episode that I highly recommend because I still struggle with that every day.
Yeah.
But what's true? It's like that justice piece that's super part of my like makeup as, in human design and in just every personality trait thing I've ever, and it's like you have a strong sense of like what's right and what's wrong. And that, like I'm always trying to figure that out. I'm always trying to learn it.
Right.
And I think that great question that was posed was a better question is what kind of world do your beliefs build? And I think we're
Mm,
so far from having those conversations. And as
yeah.
we said earlier before we hit record too, it's not like you and I are on one team thinking we're super happy with
No.
how what's going on with like Democrats or like what's really clear right now in the world of what the right calls the left is there's a lot of cannibalizing each other that's and there's a lot lack of vision and leadership even though there's a lot of great things happening.
Right.
So there's just so much fatigue everywhere and you're right, so that's one of the reasons we feel fucked, not just because the people who are in power are really causing a lot of pain and
Mm,
a lot of human rights violations, let's just say, without going into the whole exhaustive list. And so like there's that we feel fucked, but also just fucked that like there's no effort to bring cohesion. There's no effort to say let's work together at all.
Right.
And that yeah. Anyway, so
Yeah, both.
cynicism. Sorry,
Well,
go ahead.
and to your point, both there's no effort as we sit here today, right? So we're recording this October 30th in case who God knows when you're listening to this. We're putting it out on election day, November 4th. So as we sit here right now, the Mike Johnson has kept the Republican side of the House at home since October 1st and will not bring them back unless Senate Democrats agree to just sign a quote unquote clean CRM, which would take away the everything that we've talked about with the big beautiful bill, right? Like all that stuff. There we're trying as Democrats to come in and say, let's at least keep funding the ACA. Let's not, and they just won't even talk to us. So there's no cohesive within the Republican Democrats, but then to your point, there's also no cohesiveness within the Democratic Party. We've got this amazing man running for mayor in New York City that any progressive Democrat goes, holy shit, he's amazing. And our leadership is like, nah, let's go with Andrew Cuomo. What?
Yeah,
So
because
you're
this is
right.
where we find out it's a top down thing. It's not a right left thing.
Well, that's exactly it, right? So my point is, I'm
Yeah.
reaffirming what you're saying. Not only is there no cohesiveness within the entire political spectrum, there's no cohesiveness within ours. And weirdly, again, this is my
Mhm.
understanding. I don't watch Fox News, but it feels like the Republicans are cohesive and they always have been, and that's why we're in this shitstorm to begin with. I'm sure there are Republicans who think, I know there's Republicans that are pissed that SNAP is not being funded. I get that. And Marjorie Taylor Greene somehow is speaking truth to power. I don't understand where that happened.
I mean, I grew up in a Republican household, right? Like a
Yep.
very conservative, I don't recognize the current Republican
No,
Party, and I have a
no.
lot of relatives who've left it because of the current climate. And I have some who haven't, as you know,
Yep.
and we haven't talked a lot lately. But I would say about that anyway. But
Right.
I would say that the thing that, like, for lack of a better term, and I don't like the thing the right has going for them is they'll say, we don't agree on anything but one thing, but come on in and we'll figure it out.
They
And I think what
do.
happens on the left, oh, yeah, I see that way more. There's a lot more of we don't agree on a lot, but come in and let's work on this together. Like they're willing to overlook a lot of differences to win. And on
I
the
see what you're
left,
saying. I see what you're saying.
there's a lot of yes, yes, yes. Oh, that one thing, fuck you. And then they
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
fall apart. And I think
Yes.
Glennon Doyle said something about that. It's like there's a bunch of different ships going the same way down like a big, waterway, and everyone's shooting at each other from their ships instead of like, let's all be a fleet, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say the right does that better. And they
Yes.
probably learned over time and all that stuff. So it's been a long game, a long plot.
Totally.
But what I will also say is a little bit that I picked up on is there is a lot of division right now over there too. I just don't think it's tearing them apart because they're in power. But
Yeah.
you
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
anyway, I don't know. But like back to your point of cynicism, because I think that's fair. I think it shows up, and tries to sell itself as wisdom, right? It tells you that you're
Mm.
just being realistic. I just got a long text from a friend of a friend who's like, I'm just wondering if I'm like really getting like going too far with my mental health and like what
Mm.
like where should I be with all this, right? It tries to tell you that like there's no point, or like like it looks like wisdom, right? Like take care of yourself. And I think that it's
Right.
just it is. I didn't would never say do anything at the cost of your mental health,
Right.
but privilege allows you to play with this like as wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who can't afford to like they can't afford to go, yeah, I'm not going to pay attention to this. And it kind of tells you that you've matured past hope. And I get that temptation. I think it's protective. If you expect nothing, you can't be disappointed. You can get cynical.
Mm.
You can tell yourself, if I keep my head down, I'm just going to stay out of the fray. And that might be true, right? But I think cynicism is just unprocessed grief in a clever disguise. It's easier to say, I don't care anymore, or I can't pay attention to that, than to admit your heart's broken. And I don't want to go into a long diatribe that you and I have gone into many times with each other, and even on some of these in parts of these episodes, which is about the whole privilege thing. Because right now,
Right.
because there is a whole thing there. But right now, it's about like, pay attention to your cynicism because you need to take care of yourself with that, and
Right.
don't just like write it, because that's what leads to numbing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you and I both know lots of people who sort of mistake detachment for discernment, right? Thinking that pulling away is a strength, but in that pulling away, in that withdrawal, it chips away at our capacity to connect, to act, to imagine that there's anything better. And even though I'm staying in the fray, I sometimes still fall in that feeling of like, will I ever in my lifetime see something better again? Like, we actually do need to make America great again. I don't know that I'm going to see that in my lifetime.
Great in a new way, not in
A
a
million
fake
percent.
way that, yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Make it again, not again like racism again, but again like what we used to think it was, the shining city on a hill or whatever the fuck Reagan said, right? Like,
Right.
and again, that was a white person's view of this world. But my view of a shining city on a hill is that all inclusive community connection, the way I view that, is amazing. I don't
Mhm.
know that I will ever see it in my lifetime.
I mean, I say that a lot to my kids. Like, I do think in this lifetime, you're going to see things improve, because history just shows you that, like, there are, like, some people, if you're really nerding out on this stuff, call it the fourth turning. Like, if you look at like increments
Yeah.
of like 80 years or something like that, like,
Right, right.
thing like, just humanity has this extinction burst right before a big change comes, and that may or may not happen in our lifetime, but it should happen in theirs. And
Yeah.
seeing young people so engaged the way they are with Mamdani, or even
Yeah.
Turning Point, even that, like, just like, which is just, oh, but is just a reminder that we're wrong, that they're clueless. I just think
Oh,
for a while they've been, not us, but like,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think media tries to make it sound like they're not engaged. And I think they have
Totally.
reasons to not be engaged. They grew up under the threat of mass shootings, and that's not going away. And they have, so there's so much exposure to corrupt leadership. Like, I can see why they just don't want to engage sometimes, but it
Sure.
doesn't mean they don't care, and it doesn't mean they're not learning how to fix this on their own. So the goal isn't to stay outraged 24/7, because that will burn you alive. We are here to tell you
Hmm.
that, but to stay awake and like be able to look at truth without turning into stone.
Hmm.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think it's the grief. You already said it, right? And when I was looking over our notes for this, that word just keeps jumping out at me. Because it is grief. That's really what's underneath all of this for me. Um, as someone again who just loved election season and loved election day. I always voted in person. I just wanted that experience. I mean, we would literally get snacks and sit and watch Steve Kornacki. Like, it was a
I
thing
know.
that I just loved doing. And I have lost so much faith in our institutions, in many fellow humans, in basic decency. Doesn't mean I'm not going to keep participating. I want to be super fucking clear on that. I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to do it. That being said, I am in absolute mourning on a day-to-day basis as to where we are in this country right now.
Yeah. And I think that that's fair. That's what is called, referred to as moral injury, right? Like,
Ah,
witnessing
interesting.
harm and feeling powerless to stop it.
Mm,
Watching things we believed in unravel,
yeah.
realizing that the compass you thought everyone shared might not be pointing north anymore. And that's disorienting. And
Yeah.
I think it's just so, like, you and I are super aware of this, but we've really worked at becoming aware of this, like realizing as much as we thought we were awake, the more like the moral injury is not just witnessing harm, but realizing that this people keep saying this to me, like someone I know who I'm working with on something, from the UK said, this is in America. And I was like, I know, but what I said to him was, I get why you're saying that. And I think what's the hardest to swallow is this is America to non-whites.
Totally.
And so wanting it to go back to something is actually wanting it to be that for everyone and
My point
realizing it
exactly.
never has been. Right.
Yes.
So it's
Amen.
like feeling powerless to stop what's going on the daily. Like I feel palpably because we were there together and because since we got back, it's even worse. Like I feel your physical pain over what's happening in Chicago and that you're not out there with your friends doing what they're doing. And you're super involved in doing what you can in LA. I just found out this morning that like the highest rate of ice raids are happening right outside of Portland. And I had no idea.
I know.
And whether or not that's even true, like it's still an alarming truth. Like witnessing harm to human beings and feeling powerless to stop it. And I don't say that in a partisan way. Like, and I can't imagine that would be partisan to anyone to watch any parent get ripped away from their child, to watch anyone who's showing up to peacefully protest what's happening to other humans also have their rights violated is it's moral injury. We don't know like how to process that. Our
Yeah.
bodies don't know how to process that.
Mm. Yeah, I mean that makes total sense. And again, here we are a year later, waking up the day after the election last year. Oh my God. I mean, it was as bad, if not worse, in some ways than it was when he won in 2016. I just remember sitting at the pool all day long, just crying, 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 crying. And so I think I don't know that I don't I was dreading. I don't think I was in denial. I just had no comprehension that it could actually get this bad. I was very well aware of Project 2025, but had I read it word for word, no, why would I put that in my brain? Like gross. But I just think I know the collective was, well, the first term was bad, but we made it through. We'll make it through this next one, and we will. But I had no comprehension that it could go this south this fast. I mean, I, I, it's mind blowing to me every goddamn day.
I mean, yeah. And there's like it's so interesting how much I even when we were like, let's record a reaction episode. And I was like, constantly the internalized misogyny in me is like, is it really going to be that bad? Like, are we overreacting? Like all that stuff that, where I was listening to people in my family be like, you're overreacting. There's no way
Mm,
they're going to do all
mm.
that. And they believe that too, to their credit,
Sure.
like
Yeah.
nobody believed, like nobody I talked to, I should say,
Yeah.
because if you listen to all those deconstructed evangelicals I listen to, they're like, none of this is a surprise. This was a plan
Right.
for decades. But
Right.
people like I knew who were like fiscally conservative and thinking this was better, whatever. I'm not going to go into that, but we're like there's no way that's going to happen. And I really wanted to believe that. And I think
Yeah.
what we had going for us that first term was there was a lot of fail safes in place, a lot of
Yes.
very logical people who have since left saying
Yep.
this is the most dangerous situation. And then they got cast out by their own people as a rhino or something.
Right.
So I think there was really like no, like I knew it would be bad. I didn't know it'd be this bad.
Right.
And yet it's not like anyone wasn't telling us all along, like, hey, what's it, flood the zone? Like that's
Yeah.
happening. We're
Yeah.
constantly waiting for the other shoe that never stops dropping. And it is not sustainable to my nervous system.
Mm-mm. No, I mean it is interesting, and I think I we were saying this on our one thread that we have with our two friends Elijah and Melissa. Like, I think the one thing I was in denial about is I remember us talking, the four of us, like having a little Zoom and being like, well, they're not going to steal my joy, I'm not going to. I mean, this sounds so that this is going to sound vain, but it's so indicative of the stress that we are all under. When Trump was in office the first time, the stress that I was under caused me to gain weight. I am gaining weight again, and there is zippo reason except for the stress that I am under, because and stress makes you not digest. It makes things you can eat as healthy in the world as you want, and stress affects all of that. And I am seeing it again. And it so that just adds a layer of fuck you to the whole thing about this. And it's fascinating. I mean, I just had no idea this sort of psychological equivalent of like being in like a power flicker, right? Like the lights are never quite going off, but they're flickering all the time, and you can't really stabilize it, and the light's not stable. It's just because there is still, although I do believe a smaller bit of this country, but there is still a part of this country that just keeps saying everything's fine, or it's not going to be that bad, or he's not really going to do it, like you said, right? Um, that is, I don't know if it's internalized misogyny, but it's definitely feels like I can gaslight myself, and we're being
Mm,
gaslit daily, hourly, minute by minute on a national level,
yeah.
no question.
I know. And there's so many hidden tolls, like all the
Yeah,
relational fracturing,
yeah.
the personal fallout, friendship strained. I see a lot of posts about people, not communicating with loved ones. And I get it. I support anything that anyone decides in that way, whether they try to make it work or they know they can't. Because there's so much grief that nobody's posting about because they don't even realize that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I think that there's so much loss of trust, of ease, of hope, of
Mm,
shared language. There's just a lot like, but then again, you look at like, despite what I mean, it was almost comical to see right before the latest No Kings March, like how it was like, this is all going to be terrorists. And then once they had no footage of anything really horrible, they were like, oh, it's a bunch of silly hippies and people in costumes.
right.
And so they're like, and I went and saw what's his name the other night, Timothy
Timothy Snyder.
Snyder speak. And, generally when I think about what he writes about, I get really depressed and I realize he's left the country. And I don't think it's as simple as I assumed it was. Like he's fleeing. I mean, I think he does have a really good relationship up at University of Toronto. And he's been through a lot of fascist regimes. Like he has been in the
Mm.
middle of things in Ukraine and he's studied this. This is like what he studies. And he doesn't give up hope. And I think the masses coming together to like see humanity. And I actually think it happens too when people who think they fundamentally disagree online get together in person. I do think humans haven't lost as much as they think as we feel like we have. And I don't know yet, like I have nothing confident to say about where this is going, but I do feel, and we'll get to that, like that there is some ways to practice hope. But yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
just such a toll. It is, and I think it's like really goes into not enough labeling of our emotions unless like we can
Mm.
really call it grief, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. And again, even through this, there are so many people showing up, still feeling, still trying to have that moral center. I mean, just what's today, Thursday. So I want to say like it was either over last weekend, or I think it was over last weekend. And my friend Christy, who we hope to have on the pod soon, put up a post about how she woke up, and she lives in Chicago, and she woke up so just, again, I think demoralized by having to spend every day as a teacher worrying about, just her kids, but then going home and patrolling her neighborhood and making sure, that kids are getting home just from school okay, and blah, blah, blah. And then she said, but another friend of hers said, but look how Chicago is coming out in community for their neighbors. And she's like, that turned my whole view around. And there, I think, is where some of the, where if you can look for the, the classic Mr. Rogers line, look for the helpers, that's where we can keep ourselves from collapsing into apathy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I just need to breathe for a second. Okay.
Yeah.
Like meeting your friends in Chicago, especially Christy, but everyone, like just it is
It wasn't even happening
like
when we were there. That's what's so crazy. It's
it's
like,
one of the I know it was, but it was like we could hear the helicopters and some
Yeah, I
shit was
mean, it was
happening.
the
But you're
ice
right,
was there,
literally
so
as we
shit had
left.
happened. But we left on Tuesday and all hell broke loose. And it started in my old neighborhood where my kids grew up. And they've just bounced all over the city. And again, to go to the whole piece of this, it doesn't matter what part of the city they are in. You know, they went last week to Lincoln Park and Lakeview, probably two of the whitest and most upscale neighborhoods in Chicago, and those people came out with their whistles chasing them down the street, right? So
Yeah.
that's what's so as sad and as heartbreaking as it is to watch what's happening in Chicago, if you can flip your lens just a little bit, which I have to do, and recognize, I mean, city of broad shoulders, that's just like that's it in a fucking nutshell. Like they are just absolutely out there protecting their neighbors no matter what.
I saw an interview with a woman who I'm pretty sure English was her second language. And she said, those white people in those neighborhoods, they don't play.
I mean, if you live in a city,
she's like,
you
good
understand.
luck trying to be like trying to grab someone in those neighborhoods. Those
Oh, damn
people all
right.
came out of their houses with whistles.
Damn right. I mean, yeah, that's just it. I saw somebody say, you know, if you live in a city, it doesn't really matter if you're white or a person of color. You understand what it means to be in community, that we are all just human, that the color of a skin does not matter, you know, and so yeah, white people don't play.
I
Not in big cities.
so I like this idea when I was looking at this and I came across some other person. And by the way, like I'm seriously weaning myself off so that I can, one of the things Timothy Snyder said the other night when he's talking about his book on freedom is like, you're not free. None of us are free if we're predictable. And when you're plugged
Mm,
into these algorithms, you're predictable.
good point.
So it was just yet another reason for me to try stepping off as I'm gearing up more of what I can do locally. So it helps me redirect that energy. And okay, so I just want to say, like, I just interrupted myself because I realize why it's so easy for me to think I'm involved by like staying online. It's because so many times I'm home, as a caregiver, especially like caring in seizure situations, I can't do anything else but like be by his side. So then I can doom scroll. So it's a really good
Right.
reason for me to go offline as I start to bring on more care for him again and be involved locally on his behalf, really.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what's happening to the disability community is it's emblematic of what's happening to everyone.
Yep.
But currently, as you and I have spoken, like there's just so many things under assault. But like my focus with other women in town, other people who also, not just women, but people who want to figure out how they can make more of an impact. Right now, we're just like food insecurity and immigration raids seem to be the thing that I can make the most impact with, like, if I want to today, right? Like there's things I can do
Yeah.
and show up for. So, as I go off, I'm starting to, be more locally engaged. And I do think when you're with other people, and like
Yeah.
to my point around the parade, it is easier to have hope, to not feel
Yes.
alone in how you're feeling. So I love this idea of hope as discipline. There's an organizer I don't know that much about, but when we were talking about this, I looked this up because I was like, where did I hear about that hope as a discipline? And I think I saw someone online say this. And so I looked it up. Someone named Miriam Kaba said she doesn't do optimism. She practices hope as a discipline. And I really like that.
Yeah.
That's not a slogan, it's a worldview because optimism waits for proof and we're fucked. Hope decides anyway.
Mm.
It's a practice you return to, especially when you don't feel it. So I like that.
Yeah, I love that. And I guess maybe intuitively that is where we are, right? Because I am not optimistic. So you're right. How do I get up every morning if not without deciding that I have hope? But I love that idea of it as discipline. I'm going to have to play with that in my mind a little bit and think about how can I be disciplined in having hope. I mean, it will be manual labor of the spirit,
Right.
right? It's as you said, talking about the things you can do. It's tending the small fires. I think again, both within the walls of your own home as well as locally. to remind you why any of this still matters. Here in California, we've got Prop 50, and which is, for those of you who don't know or maybe misunderstand it, Prop 50 is Governor Newsom when Governor Abbott of Texas just decided whole cloth to gerrymander Texas. Newsom said, well, let's take it to the voters. And if the voters agree, we will temporarily redistrict so as to counteract what happened in Texas. And it will go back in 2030 to whatever the census says. So he gave it to the voters. And so what we're doing here in California is literally just talking to our friends, texting our friends, making sure they voted and that they have voted yes on Prop 50 instead of trying to do big phone banks and all that. It's like just do with keep again tending the fires that you have access to. So yeah, it might be the kid you're mentoring, the vote that you cast, the letters. I mean, goddamn, the amount of letters that I've written, the truths you talk about at the dinner table when your voice still shakes. Hope is hard won. It's not like la 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 la. It's not all fluffy. It's actually gritty.
Yeah. And it's collective, and
Yeah.
it's not about one person believing things will turn out fine, because like honestly, if you look at history or any accounts of countries that have gone in this direction, usually it's the optimists that die first. So it's that
Noted.
seems like an evil laugh. um no, it's usually the optimists that are like, so it's not really about one person's belief that things are going to be fine. It's about many people choosing not to look away at the same time.
Mm,
And that's what I think of when I think about staying human, that hope isn't pretending everything's going to turn out well. It's remembering that what we do still makes sense, even when we don't know the ending.
which, to be fair, none of us do ever know the
Yeah.
ending,
Yeah.
right? So that makes sense. And, hope also doesn't erase the darkness. It doesn't forgive what's going on right now, right?
Mhm.
It's like this, it almost feels uh, reductive, but it is like this little flicker that guides us to help us keep walking through this darkness that is here and is not going away anytime soon.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, you and I've had this conversation. It's going to get worse before it gets better. I think that's the thing for me that always is so frustrating about these marches. I love a march. I've been doing it for almost 40 years. I will go to everyone. I'm so honored and happy that my husband always walks beside me. My kids often do. Um, and for the first time with this regime in particular, and especially with, the no kings or the hands off or whatever, every time the backlash is so huge. Like I just felt like after No Kings, the ice raids got heavier. Yeah, the bullshit got worse. And so I think that's also hard, so you have to keep that little bit of hope and that feeling that we get on those days with 7 million other people throughout the country and be aware that the post walk or post march hangover is going to also come with some knockdowns, but we can't let that knockdown be the thing that extinguishes the hope.
Yeah. Timothy Snyder mentioned Václav Havel the other night, and I
Mm,
love Václav Havel. I actually wrote my senior thesis about spring of 68 and comparing it to the fall of 89 when I was there. Like I was there
yeah.
when he got freed. And he was a playwright, who like he's a little bit Zelensky sort of reminds me of him. He was a
Yeah.
playwright who like was imprisoned for his beliefs and then ended up being president. And he was in no path to leadership at all. And his quote is, hope is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense no matter how it turns out. I love
Mm,
that, right? It's a great anchoring, like, because I think it's not naive. It's just anchored in meaning for people.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a gorgeous. You and Genevieve have Václav Havel in
Yes.
connection. She loves him too. Um, yeah, it's beautiful and it's hard. Hope isn't easy. Again, it's not fluffy. I think people think, oh, hope, la la la. Yeah, but it is hard. And practicing that kind of hope means you keep showing up, even when we keep getting knocked down, even when things get harder. Again, you and I mean, we're not super old, but we may not see this payoff. And but we've got to keep doing it. We tend to this to our corner of the world, not only for our kids and our grandkids and so forth and so forth and so forth, but it really is just what keeps me feeling human.
Yeah. And like love, I think hope is a verb. And
It
I
is a
just think
verb.
it's been extra hard lately. And
Yeah.
I've pulled some muscles.
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus. So, if you're listening and you don't know what to feel anymore, you know what? I do think that's actually okay. I think, feeling confused, feeling sad and anger and even feeling like you have to numb out every once in a while, that is fine. It does mean that you are still connected, that you do still have that dreaded word, empathy. And ultimately it does keep you from going numb.
Yeah. And maybe hope isn't something you're going to find, like that's okay. Maybe it's something that, like whatever it is that you're going to choose. Maybe it's your sanity.
Mm,
I would say like I can't escape the feeling I constantly have is if you can look away, recognize that you're privileged enough to look away. But I'm not trying to shame you in that. Just find the way that you can find hope and be a light and, like be about humanity in the ways you can. Like, take care of yourself
yeah.
without completely abandoning anything you care about. If whatever that is. But I guarantee you, like, it's going, no matter what it is you choose, it's going to be so much easier if you can talk this through with people that you
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. It's funny. I am almost beyond the point of feeling trying to shame or guilt anyone who's choosing to look away. I don't, it's literally the last thing I is on my to-do list.
I know.
I just don't have
I
the
know.
energy for it anymore. I guess you do you, but as long as you understand that you are lucky enough to do that. Again, that's not a shaming quote. It just is fact. Um,
Totally.
it is a daily decision you and I both make to keep our heart open, even though it gets broken every goddamn day.
Yeah. And that there's also ways that like it gets renewed every day too
True.
by, like my time with you, my time connecting with people who light me up and seeing little bits of like things that spark hope or that just make me believe in humanity. So
Yeah.
it's like I just have to work harder at that because it's so much easier right now to get my heart broken.
I mean, again, I think that's, it's funny because I referenced that conversation or that reel I saw about looking at how Chicago's showing up as hopeful versus depressing, that they have to.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I saw that reel, I sort of thought like, I was like, whatever, I'm just mad. But that coupled with this idea of hope as discipline, I'm really gonna dig in on that for myself. I think that's my takeaway from this conversation is what does that look like for me? Because my heart is broken every day, especially for Chicago. Um, and I find myself often slipping down a rabbit hole of thinking like I don't know how much longer I can do this. So that is a new I appreciate you finding that. I know you've said it to me before, but really digging into it today, I appreciate that. I'm going to really work on that.
WTF, man.
Yeah, we were going to do like Leon Bridges River or Tracy
Yeah.
Chapman's There's going to be a revolution, but we decided to just do WTF.
Man,
There's
this is
actually
when
a
I
lot of what the fuck song.
this is right when I wish we could just go right into the song,
I
but
know.
like please,
You'll get to hear it
forgive me.
when you on my social medias.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's actually amazing how many songs are on out there called "What the Fuck," but
I know.
we picked the one that is most popular, I think.
Well, remember when we were first starting this pod, it was gonna be, like for women of a certain age who have no
And
fucks left, or we even
yep,
tried no fucks left. There's a lot of pods with those
yep.
words. So
That's because, and that was before all this happened.
yeah. That's true.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we will be back next week.
Bye.